The storm howled louder, blurring the lines around him, yet all he could think about was the brilliance behind her eyes and the choices he'd made. He was teetering on the brink of something, forging connections that mattered amid the relentless grind of ambition. The phone rang in his pocket, shattering the fragile moment. It was his board, impatient and demanding. Steve found himself torn yet again, trapped between the cold corporate machine and this woman whose simple hopes fluttered like the umbrellas in the wind. Glancing at Anna, he felt an impulse to reach out, to ask more, to discover if hope could prevail over ambition. But with the thunder rumbling ominously, he glimpsed an uncertain future. Would he dare step away from the demands of his position and move toward a more meaningful existence? Or would he remain shackled to the path that led him to loneliness? The storm raged on, mirroring the turmoil within. The moment Steve's phone vibrated again in his pocket, an almost instinctual irritation welled up within him. Annoyance danced on the edges of his thoughts, yet he couldn't ignore the warmth in Anna's presence. She had started to pack her umbrellas, her face animated as she spoke about their creation. Each one a piece of heartfelt craftsmanship designed to bring joy. "What inspired you to start this business?" he asked, surprising even himself with the question. Anna paused, her brow wrinkling in thought, and for a brief moment the noise of the rain faded away. "It was my kids," she replied, her voice steady. "I wanted them to see that dreams come in all shapes and sizes. I used to work a corporate job just like you. But when I had them, I realized time was something you can never get back. I took a risk, started creating, and now it's more than just selling umbrellas. It's a lesson in resilience, for them and for me." Steve felt a twinge of envy mingled with inspiration. Here was someone who had transformed a personal struggle into a source of strength, while his own journey seemed haunted by a pursuit of wealth that had stripped away his spirit. There was something unsettling about the alternative reality she painted, the warmth of connection versus the coldness of profit margins. The questions began swirling in his mind. What had it cost him to climb the corporate ladder? What dreams had he buried beneath spreadsheets and boardroom meetings? Each query struck deeper than the last, echoing in the silent spaces between them. The city seemed to hum in resonance as he realized he was standing at a crossroads. One path leading further into the artifice of business, and the other toward a more sincere connection with the world around him. As Anna finished packing, an unexpected wave of resolve surged within him. "I don't have a lot of time," he admitted, a hint of vulnerability slipping through his usual bravado. "But I want to learn more about how you do this, about your journey. It feels significant." "Not at all," she laughed lightly, twirling a paintbrush between her fingers. "I was like you, caught up in the corporate grind. I only found the courage to follow my passion after a turning point in my life." A turning point? His mind raced. Could this moment be his own? As she shared her journey, coaxing him into her artistic realm, he began to glimpse possibilities for his own rediscovery. Fueled by her story, he felt inspiration bubbling within him, a current he had long stifled. But as he absorbed each word, an unsettling knot tightened in his stomach. What if engaging with this new potential now meant he would have to face the ugliness of his corporate reality? A dichotomy loomed. Could he bridge the gap between the two lives that seemed to pull him in opposing directions? Anna's laughter cut through his trepidation. "Come here, I want to show you something." As he followed her deeper into the workshop, breathless anticipation stirred within him. What would this reveal unleash in him? Was he ready to confront the complexities inherent in pursuing a life beyond the confines of his corporate armor? Yet as they moved past an array of vibrant canvases, he couldn't shake the questioning thoughts. The temptation to retreat to the known world of spreadsheets and presentations danced teasingly at the edges of his mind. While hope bubbled at the forefront, uncertainty loomed large beside it. What awaited him here? Would he merely admire the art or dare to create his own? Somewhere between the paint-splattered walls and Anna's infectious enthusiasm, he stood at a threshold. The future was unwritten, fraught with challenges that would test the resolve he had only recently begun to reclaim. What would he unveil about himself amid the cascade of colors and creativity? The moment had come. A crucial choice lay ahead. But would he leap in, or would the shadows of his past hold him back? Every moment of doubt, hope, and transformation, I wanted to capture the essence of breaking free. The word struck him harder than any presentation he'd given over a corporate conference table. It wasn't just art, it was a manifesto of change. Could he translate her fervor into his own life? Or was this merely an enticing dream that would fade once he left this sanctuary? Anna turned to him, curious eyes probing deeper. "What about you, Steve? What brings you here?" He hesitated, words coiling in his throat as if they had no intention of escaping. How could he articulate the shift within him? His life felt like a fragile glass tower. One more step and it could shatter. "I've felt stagnant," he finally murmured, the admission pulling him closer to vulnerability. A spark ignited in her eyes, urging him on. "Then let's explore that. Create something together," she proposed, her enthusiasm a beacon illuminating the shadows of doubt. Create? The idea sent his heart racing, but also brought fresh waves of anxiety crashing down on him. He hadn't picked up a paintbrush since childhood. Would he merely smear colors, creating a mess instead of art? But what if? What if he engaged in this immersive experience fully? Without realizing it, he took a step closer to the canvas. "What if I make a fool of myself?" he blurted, instinctively pushing his self-doubt to the fore. "Every masterpiece starts with a mess," she reassured him with a smirk. "Trust the process." Her unwavering confidence sparked a flicker of resolve in him. They were operating from different realms of creation, yet somehow united in their journeys towards authenticity. She sensed her hesitance, yet didn't relent, her belief in him carving space for his apprehensions. Breath caught in his throat, he glanced at the array of brushes and palettes on the nearby table, the weighty decision pressing against his chest. Could the rise and fall of creativity serve as a bridge towards rediscovery? "Okay," he declared, a mixture of trepidation and excitement mask dancing across his features. "Let's try it." His fingers reached for a brush, trembling with both anticipation and fear. As he swirled color on the palette, something within him pulsated, an awakening from within the confines of his corporate existence. This was not just about making art. This was a reclamation of his buried passions.
With every stroke on the canvas, barriers began to dissolve, and though uncertain, a feeling of electricity surged through him. His world, once confined to numbers and formal suits, was broadening in colors and textures he had long forgotten. Suddenly, a loud crash of thunder reverberated outside, startling him back to the awareness of his environment. The storm raging beyond the workshop doors mirrored the tumult of emotions brewing inside him. As the rain pelted the windows, Steve felt a surge of inspiration. This was his turning point.
What was igniting the ginning within him now felt bigger than a simple painting. This was a confrontation with fear, a chance to tear down the walls his corporate life had erected. Yet, as he dipped the brush in paint, an unease tugged at the edges of his thoughts. What awaited him when he stepped outside? Would he revert to his old self, or carry this rebirth forward? The thunder rolled again, a primal drumbeat urging him onward. But the question reverberated more deeply now. Was he ready to redefine not only how he expressed himself, but how he faced the world? Steve hesitated, paint splattered upon the canvas. As the storm outside raged, it became painfully clear. Change was coming, but would he have the courage to answer its call? The moment the brush touched the canvas, a wave of uncertainty rushed over Steve, and he stepped back, eyes locked on the chaotic canvas. Streaks of vibrant blue danced next to energetic reds. But it was the murky gray in the corner that drew his attention. His doubt mirrored those darker hues, clouded, waiting to be transformed. "What if I can't do this?" he muttered, battling the growing swirl of anxiety threatening to drown him again. "Remember, it's not about perfection," Anna answered, her voice steadfast. "It's about expression. What are you feeling right now?" He paused. Feeling? After years of filtering his emotions through the lens of business, he had almost forgotten what that word entailed. It was undoubtedly easier to quantify success in sales figures than in colors on a canvas. But in this vibrant space, something was shifting. Fear, he revealed, the hesitation melting into honesty. Fear of failure. Fear of what lies beyond this moment. "Good," she responded, painting a swirl of turquoise beside his gray. "Let it out. Fear can be a powerful catalyst. It can energize your brush. What does it look like when you transform that fear into something else?" Her words struck a chord, one that resonated deep within him. Could he turn his fear into art? A new desire bubbled to the surface. The memory of what he used to find joy in, the thrill of creativity before the constraints of corporate expectations suffocated his spirit. With renewed determination, he picked up the brush again, allowing the pigment to consume his hesitation. He layered blues upon blues, encircling the dark gray, bringing it into dialogue with brightness. A vivacity replaced the initial uncertainty, pulling him into the process instead of pushing him away. Anna watched quietly, a smile creeping onto her face as Steve began to find his rhythm, strokes becoming more confident, movements less concerned with judgment. There was an adrenaline rush with each swing, a feeling that perhaps this messy endeavor was leading to something more significant than just a painting. It was a manifestation of his inner turmoil, a confrontation with his own fears,
and it felt liberating. Art is understanding yourself, Steve.
Trust that what you create is a reflection of your journey. Embrace it. And what if I don't know who I am? He shot back, the question falling from his lips unfiltered, tinged with urgency. Anna's laughter was light, almost colored with compassion. You may not know yet, but that's the beauty of this process. You're unearthing layers. It's like peeling an onion. There's always more to discover. Peeling away. The analogy struck him hard, revealing a truth he had long suppressed under work emails and quarterly projections. He had buried his passions, and in doing so, he had buried parts of himself. What could he bring to the surface if he scrapped the layers of office decorum and corporate expectations? Suddenly, the once soothing sounds of rain became overwhelming, a dark wave cascading dread upon him. What awaited him outside this crowded sanctuary? The outside world felt daunting, an entity bent on leaning back into the safety of the known. His hands paused mid-stroke, paint dripping slowly to the ground as if time had stopped. In that silence, Steve contemplated the raw exhilaration of creation, the antidote to his stagnation. He had embarked on this journey seeking change, yet here he was feeling the gravitational pull of regression, caught between the excitement of self-discovery and the fears of the outside world waiting to greet him again. Breathless, he realized he had seized a moment, one worth embracing fully. The canvas became a testament to not just his struggle with fear, but his desire to confront it. He pushed forward, carving colors into solid lines, allowing new shapes to emerge unfiltered. When the last stroke met the canvas, it was less about having created something beautiful, and more about the act of creating itself. The storm raged on outside, serving as a constant reminder of the chaos once feared. Maybe, he whispered, staring at the canvas, his heart racing in tandem with the rain, just maybe I can take this outside with me. But that fleeting thought lingered over him. Was he ready to rise against the current, or would the storm pull him back into the shadows of his former self? As he stole a glance at Anna, both apprehensive and elated, another thunderous crack sounded, resonating within him. The time was coming for a decisive leap, stepping into uncertainty and forging ahead without succumbing to fear once more. His heart raced with possibility, but the question loomed heavily in the air. Would he embrace this newfound courage, or would he retreat into the solace of the familiar? The rain pounded against the window, a relentless symphony that mirrored Steve's churning thoughts. He could almost hear his own heartbeat competing with the storm, each throb pulling him deeper into an internal conflict. Just moments ago, he had tasted the sweetness of liberation through his brush, yet doubt's familiar grip tugged at his mind, threatening to drag him back into the suffocating familiarity of his corporate life. "Let it out. Remember what this is about," Anna said, her words a lifeline thrown into the swelling sea of his uncertainty. Yet each detail of his world outside seemed to foreshadow potential disaster. The looming pressure of returning to a life dictated by quarterly goals and relentless deadlines felt like boulders weighing heavily upon his chest. But what did he truly want? The question spiraled through him, igniting sparks of rebellion. Each color he had unleashed onto the canvas became a metaphor for his yearnings, faded ambitions, vibrant dreams, and the stark gray of his fears. He felt like an artist standing on the precipice of a new reality. Could he really embrace this newly found voice and let it guide him? "Anna," he broke the silence, his voice barely a whisper. "What if I fail out there?" "Fear doesn't control you unless you let it," she replied, her gaze steady as she applied another layer of paint to her own canvas. "There's no such thing as failure in art. It's all about growth, just like in life. Challenge yourself. The moment you leave this room, everything will look different, but you define those differences." He nodded, absorbing her meaning. The dream of creating something meaningful, something that resonated with the chaos of his life and the storm raging outside, began to settle into his bones. This was not just about painting, it was about reclaiming his identity. He stood before his piece, an explosion of colors that felt distant yet wholly his. Each stroke had pulled him from the corporate grind, peeling back layers of expected conformity. What if I bring this creativity to my work? The thought sparked an ember of excitement within him, unexpected and invigorating. But what if they don't accept it? What if they laugh? He challenged, not yet ready to fully embrace the burgeoning assertiveness against those obstacles. "Then you find somewhere that embraces your vision," Anna affirmed. "You won't know what they think until you try." A pulse of courage surged within him. Maybe he could take that leap. Leaving the comfort of his office to embrace the unknown felt like plunging into an icy river. Yet, springing from that water with newfound vigor also shimmered from within. Instinctively, he reached for his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. As he crafted a message to his boss, proposing a new initiative that would incorporate creativity into their marketing approach, a moment of hesitation nearly halted him. What if he suddenly became that offbeat manager, the one who thought outside the box, in a world keen on statistics and safe choices? But he caught himself. It was only fear again, swirling around him like the unfinished strokes of his painting. The ocean of self-doubt could easily drown him, yet battling through it felt no different from wrestling with the paint on the canvas. Yet one thing was clear: he would not allow it to dictate his path any more. With a decisive click, he sent the message. A stone thrown into a pond, rippling out into the unknown depths of his professional life. Encouraged by the weight he had cast aside, he turned once more to the canvas, and slowly inspiration sparked. Steve began layering colors with vigor as each stroke became infused with intent. There was no turning back now. Deviation towards the familiar gnawed at him, yet the call of progression felt too potent to ignore. Whatever awaited him beyond the safety of this space, he would face it, for he had identified a new part of himself, the artist and innovator emerging from the shadows of the businessman. "I think I'm ready," he revealed, locking eyes with Anna, who favored him with a proud grin. Just then, an unrelenting clap of thunder boomed outside, as if to underline his declaration. With every moment that passed, the choice before him became clearer. What would he decide next, and who would he become in the process? But as he moved toward the door, the realization struck him anew, heavy with uncertainty. Could he daringly step into a world that would test his creativity and wisdom? The storm poured down, echoing his internal tempest, whispering that the true challenge lay not in the artistry of paint, but in the artistry of life itself. Would he embrace the tempest, or would he let it wash away his aspirations? The moment Steve stepped through the door, the storm outside enveloped him like a shroud, each raindrop amplifying the pulse of anxiety in his chest. He stood at the threshold of a familiar hallway that had once felt constricting, a maze of cubicles and accomplishments that had reduced his creativity to mere numbers and headings. Now, however, there was something different in the air, a hint of rebellion, a promise of transformation. He caught a glimpse of his reflection in the glass panel of his office door. The man he saw was a stranger, yet familiar, a man who had begun to explore the vibrant chaos of his passion. With a deep breath, he entered his office, heart racing as he prepared to address his team about the initiative that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. "All right, everyone," Steve began, his voice steadier than he felt. The conference room filled with skeptical glances, side conversations simmering just below the surface. He could feel their eyes boring into him, measuring whether the man who usually spoke in graphs and profit margins has now turned into an eccentric dreamer. "I want to introduce a new approach to our marketing campaign, one that focuses on creativity expression," he declared, each word carefully chosen, prying open the door to a different kind of discussion. Their silence was palpable. It felt like a weighted blanket tightening around him. In a company entrenched in tradition, the idea of embracing creativity felt like proposing a foreign language. He flicked his gaze to the whiteboard, covered in his rushed sketches and colorful ideas. The colors he had draped on canvas now beckoned to be shared.
Ideas flowed like a fissure bursting forth. The campaign transformed from mere marketing strategy to a tapestry weaving personal stories, artistic expression, and the company's values. Yet, amid the burgeoning excitement, a nagging concern held tight in the back of his mind. The clock ticked louder, counting down to their impending presentation for upper management. What if their support faltered the moment the executives scrutinized their artistic vision? One afternoon, just after a particularly animated brainstorming session, Max cornered him in the break room. "Steve, look, I get it. You're passionate about this," he began, his tone cautious but earnest. "But these ideas, do you think they'll take us seriously? If we fail..." "If we fail, we try again. But if we don't take this leap, we risk standing still," Steve blurted, the words tumbling from his mouth. The unexpected fervor in his voice surprised even him. Max raised an eyebrow, evaluating Steve's intensity. "You're serious about this, aren't you?" "More than ever," Steve replied, locking eyes with his colleague. But as they debated, Steve's resolve wavered. Would his audacity frighten them into retreat? What if he was asking for too much too soon? That evening, isolated in his office, he sat down to prepare for the presentation. The polished slides flickered on his screen, filled with bold images, emotional words, but deep down, a seed of fear began sprouting. Could he effectively communicate the changes to those still clinging to their tried-and-true formulas? Just then, a thought hit him. His passion could be the conduit he needed to connect both worlds. In that moment, clarity emerged. But he knew bringing that vision to life required more than just confidence. It demanded unwavering strength against potential rejection. The morning of the presentation arrived, carrying a weight heavier than the storm clouds outside. The faces of top executives loomed in his mind like looming shadows. Would their stern expressions stifle his fervor? The time had come to face them, to present a fusion of creativity and strategy that could either elevate their marketing campaign or seal its fate in ashes. Standing in front of the boardroom, Steve felt the weight of anticipation pressing down on him. The vibrant sketches and marketing plans he had envisioned now seemed like mere fragile dreams before the stern expressions of the executives before him. His heart raced as he took a deep breath, grounding himself in the transformative journey he had undertaken, drawing strength from the colors splashed on his canvas and the fires of creativity ignited within him. "Thank you all for being here," he began, steadying his voice. Each word echoed not just in the room, but as a testament to his new resolve.
Today, I want to talk about how we can revitalize our marketing strategy through creative expression, bridging the gap between data-driven decisions and the emotional connections we can create with our customers. As he flipped through the slides, vibrant visuals cascaded across the screen, infused with passion and purpose. He shared how storytelling, a craft proficient in art, could strengthen their brand's resonance, moving away from sterile transactions towards authentic connections. He passionately recounted his meeting with Anna, illustrating how her unique journey transformed art into allegory, barriers into bridges. The connection resonated through the conference room. Hesitation began to thaw as some nods of agreement surfaced among the executives. He navigated each slide with unwavering determination, intertwining metrics and artistic avenues with seamless grace. Creative campaigns have the potential to drive customer loyalty and engagement, and I'm committed to combining our traditional metrics with innovative artistry to ensure measurable results, he continued, presenting data that paralleled successful campaigns fueled by creativity. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through the rising excitement, Max. "It's an intriguing concept, Steve, but what if marketing fails to reach our target audience? Isn't there a risk in diverging from tried and true methods?" Steve felt that familiar pang of doubt rising, the shadows creeping back. "We will still carry the data insights. This isn't abandoning our foundations. It's a conscious evolution," he replied, a new confidence buoying his words. "Art and metrics can coexist, unfolding new pathways towards connection without sacrificing our core values." Faces shifted, revealing a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Slowly, he could see their defenses lowering, their interest piqued by this unconventional approach. The rise and fall of the meeting felt like the brushstrokes on a canvas, fluid, reactive, evolving. By the end of his presentation, he could see the board engaged. They talked among themselves, debating and discussing his vision with renewed energy. It was exhilarating to see his colleagues pondering the very ideas that had once trembled in his thoughts. After what felt like an eternity, one executive finally raised her hand. "I appreciate your perspective, Steve. I can see potential here, though we'll need to ensure our financial risks remain well managed." Steve's heart soared. "Absolutely! I'm ready to create a more detailed proposal, harmonizing creativity with structured accountability, highlighting how we can test this concept without sacrificing our stability." In the days following the presentation, as enthusiasm swept through the team, something remarkable blossomed within Steve. Every colorful brainstorm session brought fresh ideas to life, allowing creativity and metrics to dance together in harmony.
The atmosphere shifted. Each team member felt invigorated, and the walls that held them captive began to crumble. He no longer saw his colleagues as mere transactional partners, but as collaborators in a revival.
a genuine partnership tethered to their collective aspirations. Excitement coursed through the office as they ventured into uncharted territories, discovering innovative ways to infuse their brand with life and personality. And as the weeks turned into a few months, the results were palpable. Not only did the emotional resonance of their campaigns ascend to unprecedented heights, but the company also saw metrics outperform previous expectations, enriching their bottom line. This fusion of creativity and performance emerged stronger than the sum of its parts, a testament to the transformative power that storytelling wielded in the digital age. One rainy afternoon, back at Anna's workshop, Steve stood beside her as they worked on a new collaboration, a vibrant mural that represented their journeys. The energy of their partnership inspired new ideas, colors splashing boldly across the canvas. It was a moment underscored by unfettered joy, reminding him of the incredible connections forged between art and business. As he stepped back to admire their work, a wave of gratitude washed over him, both to Anna and to the journey he had embraced. This new chapter was not just about chasing profits, but nurturing the very passions that had ignited his soul. He felt fortified by the courage he had summoned to leap into the unknown, emerging whole from the tempest once encased in solitude. Steve Matthews had transformed from a rigid CEO into a creative visionary, leading with both heart and strategy. He had conquered the specter of fear that had loomed over him, and demonstrated that true success lies in courageous self-discovery, evidenced by the colorful tapestry that painted his life anew. As the vibrant mural flourished before him, Steve firmly grasped the understanding that he was not bound by the confines of his corporate past. He could shine brightly, bringing creativity into the sphere of structured business. Through that learned resilience, he achieved a thriving balance between ambition and authenticity, smiling at the reflection of the man he had now become. If you believe in the power of transformation and the beauty of personal stories, you need to subscribe now. Join us on this incredible journey and don't miss out on the exclusive emotional stories ahead. Leave a like to support the algorithm and spread these inspirational tales. Comment below with your thoughts on Steve's journey and what you think lies ahead for him. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to inspire others.